Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Go-To Food Podcast, and today we're joined by an absolute... You're so beautiful, it's unbelievable. Michelin-starred chef 3 times over, a multi-award-winning cookbook author, a MasterChef judge, a legend of the industry, the beautiful Giorgio Locatelli. You've done such long shifts. You're 62 and you still look absolutely beautiful. I mean, what is the secret?
I don't know. Just take it easy in the evening. Go home. Go to bed.
Yeah.
Party a little.
Yeah. You've also penned the best Italian cookbooks ever. Ben rang me up yesterday and he said, "Do you realise how fucking good his books are?"
Well, that book took 7 years to write.
Really?
So
Which one? Made in Italy?
Made in Italy took 7 years.
It's unbelievable.
It's a lot of work. I think it's nice because it just shows, the development and the was as well through the years. From when we start to cook it to when actually we finish.
But there's stuff in there, like so I used to work at a restaurant called the Dot Kitchen.
Right.
Where I believe you were a customer a few times, in Ladbroke Grove.
Yes.
Yeah. And Stevie worked at the River Cafe, so
That's
a pretty good training ground. But when we were first making risotto, like as a chef training there, we were given in that Made in Italy. You have a long description of making risotto.
That was a massive fallout with the editor.
Really?
Yeah, because he says, 42-page of risotto.
Yeah.
That's too much. I said, actually, I want to add another.
Yeah. Well, thank God you did, we just had to read that start to finish, and it genuinely explains to you.
But
everything
I'm
you need to
Northern
know.
Italian.
Yeah.
And so for Northern Italian, risotto is the thing.
Yeah.
And I was eating 6 times a week. I would eat risotto. Actually, it was a special thing on Tuesday lunch. My grandmother used to cook. I'm talking about the late 60s.
Yeah.
When I was little, cook spaghetti.
Yeah.
And I remember inviting some of some friends of mine and say, "Oh, come to have spaghetti," because they never had spaghetti.
Really?
And, farmers and people that were around the lake like that, they never had spaghetti. Pasta was not a thing until later. So risotto is what we are made of.
That's amazing. Okay.
That is incredible.
Quickly, why was she cooking spaghetti? Like what?
Because my granddad was a great gourmet. He had things. He went to buy things.
Yeah.
And he never cooked. He just stood there, looked at her, and tell her what to do, and she will do it perfectly. And so, my granddad would take us across the river to the other side in Piedmont to go and have a pizza. It's that was like a thing. Then you come back on Monday morning and say to the other kids,
you won't believe.
Pizza. They will go like, "What is that?" And you're like,
"Wow."
Were you guys not known as the Polentones though as well?
That's exactly what we're called, the Polentoni, because polenta as well was. But polenta is when you go up a little bit more on the mountain. Okay. So we are kind of very close to the Lomellina, to the south, where sort of Lombardy meets Piedmont.
Yeah.
Right.
And so that's the big rice ground. And during the fascist time, that was really developed so much, So rice was very available. The people would go and work on the rice fields, and they get paid in rice.
As this podcast comes out, Giorgio, you just opened your latest restaurant, Locatelli, at the National Gallery. Yeah. Tell us what we can expect from it. I mean, it's incredibly exciting return to London.
Well, I really cannot tell you what you can expect, because I don't know what I can expect.
Well,
for me, the transition from Zafferano to Locanda was actually, of course, it was a new venture. We were in charge of everything. Me and my wife, Plaxi, owned the place, but we knew exactly who our clients were, what the average spending would be, what the experience we were trying to do, how to build the team and everything else. Here we have make a step in the completely unknown. I mean, it's a service restaurant because it serves the gallery, serves the people that come through the gallery, and the idea is then how we're going to manage to put hospitality into this, because service is kind of like this kind of places you go there, you have a sandwich or something like that. Yeah, the idea is to really start to give a really sort of an experience or hospitality really into that, just giving them 1 hour.
But come on, give us some dishes.
Oh, the dishes, we went for a very, obviously, thinking about the kind of people that will come in, which, 60% will be walk-in people, so walk-in from the gallery. So they come in through an experience that is, visually incredible, and then they will just have a break and sit down to have a meal. So we went for some classic Italia. We have pollo alla cacciatora with polenta. We have couple of 3 pasta. So we have our great, my only sort of dish that I think I invented in my life is the pappardelle with the broad beans.
Your people dish.
Yeah, and then I don't know. We have some ravioli cappellacci, and then we have few starter. We fix in a few very light salad. Try to work a little bit more with pesto, with underneath of some courgette, and so they are kind of all new dishes, but always very classical as well. And I'm sure we'll put in a cacio e pepe. We'll put in things like that.
Oh, good. Yeah.
This is something. It's very important that people feel as well comfortable. In Locanda, the people were choosing to come to eat to you. They were booking, and you were a destination. We were a destination. Here is different. We need to really. It's more democratic. It's more democratic. I just keep on saying, I want it to be like those trattoria that you go in and and there is something for everyone. Like we're at massive fallout with the gallery. We say, child menu. You go like, no, we don't do child menu. The child eats like his father and mother, a smaller portion, and pays off.
Yeah,
that's how Italians do
Yeah.
it. There is no.
But also,
And have they gone for that? Are they happy with that? now?
That's how
They have to.
That is what it is. Yeah.
I just not
but
doing
also,
it.
there's another thing which pisses you off. The fact, Olivio, you opened in the 90s. Since then, when you open a restaurant, everyone's obsessed with concepts. What's the concept? What's this? Does that piss you off, Giorgio?
That does.
Yeah.
It's like, so, what happened is Locanda was that, we realized that we were at the end of the road with them, and, we could not renew this contract, so we had to move on. And Plaxi started to look around for places, so start to look for properties, and, we were looking around Central Town and things like that. And she come back every day and said, God, this, I made this 22 years old, agent, that works and things. Says, what is your concept? And you go like, concept? It's a restaurant. It's not a concept, But that's what seems to.
That's the modern age.
Yes.
It's sad though, isn't it? Because people are more obsessed with sort of social media campaigns than they are actually the food.
It's a bit sad, yeah. It is a bit sad because sometimes you have people that come to a restaurant and, they spend more time on their phone posting and taking pictures than actually enjoying the moment.
Yeah.
The idea of a restaurant is enjoying the moment with the people that you're sharing it with. This is at the base of what I always believed, that would give me great pleasure is to see a restaurant full of people that had a very good time with each other. We had a great, look, after the COVID, when we come back, when we start to reopen, these needs then the people had to suddenly, they could have very good food when they're at home and order it or whatever, but this idea of sharing it and this sense of conviviality is something that is still very magic, is still very human, is still very, and the Italians are they're very good. We are very good at that, like of creating this sort of feel,
Yeah. Locanda obviously closed very, very sadly, but it was for reasons out of your control. What actually happened there? Was there a fallout? Was there a bust up?
No, we had a contract and we were renewing every 5 years, and obviously every 5 years you had a rent increase, and so and now it was unsustainable for us.
Got out of control.
Out of control, and it's
Frustrating.
Very frustrating. It was very frustrating.
How long were you in that site?
23 years altogether. So it took 3 years to really just say, okay, forget about it. We're just going to move on.
Yeah.
But it was impossible. It was financial. The costs have grown incredibly in the last few years. I guess, people say it's the Brexit. People say it's just everything else. But gas, light, electricity, everything else. Plus, you really need to treat your staff and pay them really properly if you want to have good stuff. So the cost, we end up, I remember in Zafferano, we had like a 17-18% profitability.
Yeah.
Some months of the year, like October, November, December, where, the celebrating months, you go up to 20, 21. Now if you hit the 5, if we were eating 5, we were just go like, fantastic.
It's tragic,
and,
isn't it?
we think about me and my wife worked at it. That was so that's what we did. So it was like, you wouldn't even get wages, Then at the end of the year, you end up, having roughly the same wages or even less than your manager and your chef has. So it just, and you carry a lot, the responsibility are enormous when you have a team of 67. Lately we have a team of 67 people. That's when we close. Sometimes, before that we used to go up to about 80 people. We had 80 people, but it was a great experience. It was 23 years of my life, and it was a great experience, and it felt very good to terminate it and just say, okay, that's it. Let's put it to bed and let's try something else.
And you were full at the beginning, full at the end. I mean, it was
We
beautiful.
were really full out. Yeah. But it was the last few months were incredible. And, we couldn't even talk about it because there was all this contract and this and that. So they silenced us a little bit. And we have a non-disclosure agreement with them. And that was just a little bit frustrating because we would have loved to do party. We were thinking
go out
about
with a bang.
Sort of Michel Roux with Le Gavroche, right?
That's exactly. But it worked because then suddenly we started to tell people, and the voice went around, and the people were coming around, and we have become a celebration restaurant.
Yeah,
and so the people really have their. There's people that've been there for 23 years on that day celebrating that thing or that birthday, and so you've grown so much.
Talking about celebrations, can we offer you a Negroni, sir?
Of course.
Ben, come on.
You have it while I make it, but you have a special Negroni on at the new menu, right? On the new place.
I have a special Negroni because when I was little, I used to. My granddad again, my great granddad, he used to go to the bar after church. But he never went to the church. He'd take my grandmother to the church, and then and so when they come back, they will we are in, as I say, in just Piedmont, cross Lombardy. So vermouth was a thing that the people drank, and so that was a thing. And one of his favorite was this vermouth, and it's called Antica Formula from Carpano. And I remember, little tasting and things. And so I make a Negroni with the Antica Formula. I call it Giorgio Negroni.
Rightly so. Over the years, incredible celebrities at the restaurant come on. Kate Winslet, Brad Pitt, Bill Clinton, Madonna. I mean, who was your favourite to cook for? And did you ever have to chuck any out for bad behaviour? I mean, sometimes surely it got out of control.
No, we were that kind of restaurant, and when things go out of control, we close the door, don't let in the security of the hotel to check us out, and just let them go wild. I think the restaurant must be something that the people live into that. And the people really need to, if they party in your restaurant, that's a great honor, I feel. If they feel so, especially this type of people, then they live kind of like life, then they're a little bit, secluded sometimes.
Who was your favourite to cook for, though? Come on.
I don't know. I mean,
who was the most fun? You see them rock up.
Fun. The most fun was Damien Hirst.
Really?
Damien Hirst was just. But I don't know. It's just. I mean, I remember Charles Saatchi as well. Charles Saatchi was just. He will have a table every Thursday night, and I mean, whoever was in town, there was somebody that was doing either a TV interview. It was sitting in that table, and the table was table 300, and it's a table that usually we serve for 5 or 6 people. Sometimes, one time there was like 12 of them sitting around this table, and it was just really great. It's just when when a restaurant become part of this kind of thing, then it's really, really great. But I don't know, one person then completely, I mean, actually, I was just yesterday when the king arrived to the gallery, to open the gallery, when he walked in, obviously there was a lot of people, and the silence went.
Yeah,
and I just said to my mom, I say to my wife, I say, Plaxi, you see, the king has got something in common with Brad Pitt, because Brad Pitt was, I remember it like if it was yesterday. It was a night, it was really rainy, and there was this table 300 again. There was Madonna sitting on it. There was, I think, not J-Lo, but the other one of his wife anyway, and it was a really big table. And suddenly, the restaurant was completely full of people, and it was really rainy. And then suddenly, I just go to the reception to check out. Are you going to take the order for this table? They were sitting like 1 hour, and the order wouldn't come in. I was going, are we going to give me something to eat? And as I was walking out the room, I could eat this. Just in the room, silence. And that was Brad Pitt, all wet with these big things and this big pair of boots, walking down the restaurant. And as he walked down the restaurant went
just
silent, completely. Animal, that's the
Yeah.
guy's got something special.
Well, Giorgio, cheers. And congratulations in your restaurant, sir.
Sorry,
Cheers.
I've free poured this, so this could taste like anything. But it's got the
talking-
most beautiful Heppel gin in it, by the way.
Oh,
Freddie.
yeah,
That's
of
worth
course.
mentioning. Have you tried Heppel gin?
No.
No?
No, I never tried.
It's delicious, made by Valentine Warner.
Oh,
up in
Valentine.
Northumberland.
I love
Yeah.
Valentine.
It's
He's
great
a
fun,
Yeah, well,
isn't
this is his
fantastic
gym.
guy.
It's unbelievable.
I love it.
Talking about the king, though, you guys used to have a great relationship. You used to send him truffles every year, and then since he's become king, I mean, he's been a bit annoying.
No, he's been fantastic.
How dare you,
Well,
Freddie.
no, I read this. I mean, Jesus, I'm not making it up in my own head.
But he's
there.
off the truffles.
Yeah, well, no, as Prince, he was easier to send truffles to, right, and have a bit of
It's
a
easy
relationship.
because bringing something to Buckingham Palace is much more difficult than bringing anything to
Yeah.
the
Just lob it
But
over
now
the fence.
we got it sorted out.
You've got it
Mark.
sorted?
Yeah, I
Oh,
sorted.
God,
sorted, so
more reason for
it's,
congratulations
Yeah.
and celebrations. This is
So hold on, you're
unbelievable.
bringing over truffles for him.
No, what happens is this, that do you remember these guys, Antonio Carluccio?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Antonio used to have he has a great relationship with him, you know. It's
Yeah.
kind of and he had a coat of arms as well from the king, you
Wow.
know, on his restaurant.
Yeah.
You remember? And I think it was the only restaurant that I know they had that.
Yeah.
And so he used to send that every year. Then when obviously he stopped doing what the restaurant kind of thing, he retired sort of thing, it was a bit difficult for him to get a fantastic truffle for
Yeah.
Italy because he wasn't buying any. In Locanda, we were kind of like doing 4 or 5 kilo of truffle a week
Wow.
during season. So we had like different people and things like that. So he said to me, "Oh, would you help me to get this?" And so when he passed away, I thought I was gonna carry on this sort of tradition.
Yeah, of
And
course.
so he was okay. Yeah. It's nice. I love it.
That's amazing.
I love
It's
it,
great.
yeah.
You opened your first place in the 90s, but when you arrived in London in the 80s, how bad was the Italian food scene? How bad was the food scene in general?
Well, it was that bad that I didn't want to work in an Italian restaurant.
Really?
No, well, it was very basic, wasn't it? It was very basic, and there was few people then start to have some inspired food from Italy, and they were British, and then but the Italian restaurant developed. The one that were sort of Italian restaurant, they developed on that dinner and dance things, and because we ran mostly by waiter, then were in the Ritz and the Savoy, and then they just kind of got together and then they opened this restaurant. But the effort, the attention was the service. That's what they made different.
Yeah.
And then you had that terrazza, there was La Famiglia, there was few restaurants, then they did typical food. There were few steps behind of what was happening in Italy at that time. But I didn't come here to work with Italian restaurants. I come here because I wanted to be a chef.
Yeah.
And for us, for Italian chefs, you needed to have a really international, and you need to do haute cuisine in order to be a chef. That's what everybody says. Oh, they used to say, "Oh, if you haven't been to Paris, you never be a chef." Sort of thing. We had this sort of reverence for French cuisine.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was very important. In fact, my job, my first job was at the Savoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked a little bit before in some restaurant up in while I was waiting to get the job, but the main thing was the Savoy, and then I was there for 4 years at the Savoy.
But I mean, you were the second Italian chef ever outside Italy to get a Michelin star in this, in this country and others, after Stefano Cavallini.
Yes. But Stefano was inside the Alkin, and he had a consultancy from Marchesi.
Yeah.
We were independent.
You were the- yeah,
we were
Of course.
homegrown.
You were the first proper one. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
gonna
We
give
were
that to you.
homegrown.
But I mean-
No. He was the first, and he was very inspiring to me. And what they did there was something that made me
And a bit of
do-
a character,
Yeah.
apparently, as well, he was.
Stefano.
Yeah.
Yes. A hell of a character, Stefano. But he was, Zafferano was the first sort of almost like homegrown London restaurant from a chef that had the experience with London restaurant.
Yeah.
So that was a difference. I guess that was why
Yeah.
sort of went very.
But he went 95, 98, as you were saying, River Cafe.
98,
99, you get yours.
We get.
What was it like having an American lady and an English lady winning a Michelin star from an Italian restaurant?
And an English head chef from Surrey.
Oh, yeah, and Thea Randall.
So you
of
had
course.
3 of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah, well, I always had great admiration for what they did at the River Cafe, and they had this great sense of, how do you say, like the conviviality was really what the restaurant was all about. And, the quality of the food was very high. It wasn't messed around. It wasn't following that haute cuisine sort of thing. And this is something that really, as well, was a very inspiring place for me. It was. I remember one day I just got up, and I used to live in North London. Then I take the train. I come down to Soho. I go to Bar Italia, like all the Italians go, and Fergus Henderson is there. And,
Yeah.
And so I knew Fergus from other people. And he says, "Oh, come, there's some friends of mine that have got this new coffee machine. Let's go and taste the coffee." And we went to the River Café when it was still a dining area for the people who worked for
the architecture office, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So and they got this new.
Really, they'd got an exciting coffee machine.
Well, they had the Faema 2056, whatever,
Yeah.
you know, which they still got it there,
Yeah,
you know, at the entrance. That's the same coffee machine. And we went down to taste this coffee. We had the coffee at the Bar Italia. And then we thought, let's go down there. And we went down there, and obviously they all knew, Fergus knew them all because, Fergus' father was an architect.
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
they were all like kind of connected. Wow. But I remember that place and thinking, that's an incredible place, And then, it's a place. How long has he been there now? 40 years.
40-something years, yeah.
And you try to get a table there on Sunday.
I know. Do they have a freedom as non-Italians that you don't have?
This is one of the very important points, actually, because sometimes as Italian we see barrier on what we do.
Yeah.
They were, but they did really respect tradition. They really did. They did not didn't do those little silly things that some other pseudo-Italian restaurant would do it at that time. So there was a sense of truthfulness in their food, and the research on the ingredients was very good. I mean, I used to, I kind of like work. When I was at Olivio, suddenly I just realized, I want to do this dish with prawns, and I want to do it with borlotti, but the dry borlotti weren't very good, and I remember just try to sort of like convince somebody at the market to import some borlotti.
Yeah.
And so, and these guys go, every time I bring you a box of this borlotti, I lose money, So I called the River Café and said, we'd be interested to have some fresh borlotti because we can bring them in on Thursday and, we can have 2 boxes for you, 2 boxes for me. They'll take the price out. And I remember they were like, yeah, of course, we'll have them straight away.
Yeah.
I think now he brings in a pallet
Yeah.
season, a day or something like
Really?
that.
So you couldn't get fresh borlotti here, really?
No,
No.
not fresh, no. You would get the dry one.
Really?
Look, I mean, the Olivo and then Zafferano really were there at the moment. Then Europe suddenly boom,
Yeah.
clocked in.
Yeah.
Suddenly the small producers, suddenly the producer of high quality could just take something somewhere. It will be put on the pallets and off it goes. And as long as they had the European certification, boom, it come through.
Yeah.
That's it. So you're talking about things like burrata.
Yeah.
Burrata, I remember the first few times they used to have burrata, people just go like, oh, no, sorry, tell the chef the cheese is off. Says, no, you're off.
Yeah. But that must have been amazing. Because I remember at the Dot Kitchen, we used to buy a ricotta that was like made on a Tuesday morning and it would arrive in London Tuesday night. And then,
that's right.
and those things.
Yeah, mozzarella, ricotta, all these fresh cheeses had a step for woods.
Yeah.
In 86 or 86 he was. I was at the Savoy and Pavarotti was singing at the Opera House, and so I go upstairs and to Umbretta, the one that then became his wife, and I say, what would you like? And so try to get a menu. He arrived with his own ham and everything else, and she said, oh, it'd be lovely to have some mozzarella. So I went back to the chef and says, oh, they would like to have some mozzarella, and we had this big French cheese trolley, with like 50 different cheeses and everything. And they send the mozzarella, which is, I say, chef, we can't serve this to him. He's gonna kill us. We said this is like tennis ball. They're not mozzarella.
Really?
So now you go to a supermarket, you have like 5 different types of mozzarella. So he went like crazy,
incredible.
And he really, there was this golden age of like 95 to 2005. I think there was something we felt the markets start to work together, and the whole thing's really engineered, and I guess there's a bit at the base of what London foodie before people never
No.
When I say to the guys in Italy, I'm going to London, I'm just going to
love
London to
why?
be a chef.
They can't cook there. Why would you?
They eat chocolate with mint. They used to say, oh, those guys, they eat chocolate with mint. You don't want to go there.
Just to finish on Locanda, obviously you ended up closing the doors recently, but 2014 you nearly had to when there was that explosion. I mean, how tough a day was that for you?
That was really, really, really tough. My hair went white. That's when my hair went really white that night. The morning after.
So what happened for those that weren't?
Well,
don't
what
know.
happened was that they did some work in the kitchen through the years, and so they cover on the kitchen underneath that, because the production kitchen for the hotel was underneath
Right.
us, and so they did some work and they left some pipe and underneath this sort of like a floor, and they put another floor on top in order to make you to run with the trolley, because for the banquet they won't run with. So they had a lot of steps, so they make a whole floor, and somewhere they left some of the pipe, which obviously rotten through the years, and then just let go. So the whole thing filled up with gas, and then boom.
Fuck me.
But it's like
But people got injured, right?
people from the hotel got injured. None of us. We lost. Two of our guys were. One was very hurt. Was a bit hurt.
Yeah.
And he was just so funny because he just went, because we used the same changing room and toilets of the hotel, our staff. So they would go downstairs, and he's sort of like, I remember he says, I just want to go for a piss, and I was waiting, and then Mr. Roberto says, oh, you can go. So he says, I went down there, I opened the door, I went out. And as I just went, boom, the whole place exploded on me, and he was terrible. That would scare me a lot that day, because we could not find him, and because the old stairs flow in, break through, so he could not come out the same way than us. So he had to come out the other side. So we could not find these guys. So we counted our people, we could not find them.
Oh shit, you got one missing.
And he was
you feel
like
the worst.
21. I thought I figured myself, I have to go his mom and dad and tell him that I killed his son.
Christ.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
At that point, at that moment, it was just so. But he was a very tough, and he was very tough the day after, and when we walked into the restaurant, to see some people come back, 6 months later to finish their plates of pizzoccheri. Then I remember this table with the pizzoccheri and the fork in it.
Yeah.
And just like, come back. I remember your plate of pizzoccheri.
Yeah.
It was
Let's start again. Yeah.
And there was like this Louis Corovillas, which now is just works in London. He was one of our chefs. I remember then when I arrived there, I saw him. He had no shoes. I says, Louis, where is your shoes? And he had one of these pair of Birkenstock, and the bum shot him off his shoes. So when we go back, the fridge door was open, and his shoes were still in the front of the fridge.
God.
It was just, the whole thing went like boom, boom, like unbelievable.
So how long did you have to close for?
It took long time because the whole system, air conditioning, water, electricity, and everything else break down. So the hotel needed to rework all that, and so it took like 5 or 6 months.
Oh wow!
Jesus.
Yeah, but we worked with the staff. We took the stuff in Italy, so we kind of like managed a
looked
little
after
bit, and we got a bit of money from the insurance.
Yeah,
so
right.
it was we managed.
Yeah.
We managed.
Talking about Italy, you obviously grew up in northern Italy. Your uncle had a Michelin star restaurant, La Gintanella, which is one of the greatest restaurants in the country. What was that like? I mean, you must have been a foodie from the moment you sort of came out of your mother.
My uncle had a restaurant that was very, very popular, La Cizialella. Then my cousin arrived, and he turned it into a Michelin star restaurant.
Right.
So it was a bit like,
Yeah.
But, when we grow up, I understand department. When I come to London, I say, my family is all in department. My granddad does reception, my grandmother does the laundry, and my mom does the service, my uncle does the kitchen. So I realized that my family was divided in departments.
Yeah.
And we all work in it, all of us. And I was the smallest one of all the cousins and brothers. And so that's why I got put in the kitchen, because, I could not help in anything else. So the kitchen was the only
So
place.
how young were you when you first sort of
When
got
I
in it?
start to go there,
Yeah.
I'm 7, 8, 9, like that, I would go down with my dad. They all leave in the morning, and, I want to go with my brother and my father.
Yeah,
so I would go with them, and then they would just put me downstairs peeling potato, peeling apple. I was the best. And, we used to have this big banqueting and make the Macedonia di frutta.
Yeah.
That was the thing that you serve with ice cream. And so because the restaurant was like on one floor, but then we had another floor with a big terrace, and we could feed about 160, 180 on banqueting.
Wow.
And so that will
Huge.
make a difference as well, because the staff in the restaurant were about 10 of them. But then, for this time of, which will be not Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, will be a lot of wedding and things like that. And then, it's beautiful. It's on the front of the lake. You're only 40 minutes from Milan.
Yeah, wow.
So But then then now it's closed and it's gone.
But talk us through the food memories when you're growing up in Italy, because I've heard you say before that as an Italian, you don't have the royal family to clutch onto. Your identity is through food.
This is true. This is something then, and when you're talking about Italian cuisine, it was made as much in Italian cuisine as one thing. It was made as much in Italy, as much outside Italy, because that's where the different community through immigration met.
Yeah,
so,
right.
And mix it up and become one thing. Because otherwise, I don't think my father's I am sure my granddad never eat. My other granddad, my granddad Mario, never ate chili in his life.
Yeah,
he
really?
didn't know what chili was. That's northern Italian. Burrata was something that I made my father taste. In Dubai.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh wow, or things like that. So it is a very, very is a cuisine that made us or what we had defy who we were, especially through immigration. And so that's a very important thing for us. And while the English will talk about Monday morning will talk about the weather or whatever in the bank. The clerk in the bank will talk about the weather. The Italian will talk about what their mother cooks.
Yeah.
And and they're very campanilistic. So there was this thing that these people down there, they put parsley in the minestrone. They're animals. Those guys. I was like, I remember we were just researching this farro soup, and so we went to Tuscany. We were around with the motorbike, just going to eat in different places, and everywhere you stop, this farro soup change, sage or no sage, bacon, pancetta. No, so just one ingredient.
So even though it's a regional speciality, it's different in every single place.
Sometimes different from household to household.
Yeah, wow,
not
right.
Even from villages. Oh no, those guys like cazzola, which is this sort of like a cabbage sort of stewed from northern Italy. Right. If from Gallarate to Busto, it changes. It changes as you go closer to Milan. It gets more nobilified. Okay, obviously, when there's more money, and it gets more like a poor dish as you get more farther away. So it's not casuality. There is a reason why this recipe changes like that, and it's a cuisine that is based on necessity, and it's based. And you cannot. Now we're talking about like these great things, and the Italian government talking about defending and the Italian cuisine, which is ridiculous. Because 100 years ago, the Italians were running away from Italy from 1885 to 1920, on a population of 29 million people, 7 million left.
Yeah, right.
7 million.
It's huge.
So 1 out of 3. So everybody knew somebody left. They didn't left because they were going on holiday. They're leaving because there was no food.
Yeah.
There was no food.
Wow.
And and then again, it happened again and again.
Yeah.
So the great era of Italian cuisine is starting from the 50s.
Yeah.
And that's when you have also this great immigration. So the industrialized north, so to start to connect, the southern start to move up to help the working
for
force
jobs
in Turin and Milan like that. And so that's where you really start to have this fusion and start to understand as a thing. I mean, the first book that you can talk about Italian cuisine is the Artusi. The Artusi is in 1900. And remember, if you read the Artusi, nothing about Sicily, nothing about Sardinia. It was like he never went there, so he didn't have any recipes.
It doesn't exist.
So it didn't exist for him. So it's a very recent story. Especially if you compare it to French haute cuisine, which was kind of like really, how do you say, dogmatized and the
classical sentence ways.
and centralized and almost like a method to explain their culture.
Yes,
the Italian never did that.
But your uncle did very well out of food. Apparently, when he passed away, you sort of realised he'd had over 17 bank accounts.
Yeah, my uncle was
17 bank accounts.
No,
was he hiding? Was he hiding
there was
things?
this mirror. There was this
And
mirror.
you didn't have to pay tax in those days, right? It was all cash.
No, because we were close to Switzerland. There was bank account in Switzerland, and he just stuck them behind this mirror.
What, cash?
And he mentioned something No. The bank accounts, the
right.
libretto,
Yeah, okay,
the libretto, the little booklets that you can make checkout.
Yeah.
And then my cousin and my auntie had like terrible time trying to get all this money back from him.
Yeah, right.
It's just like hidden behind. And it was the husband of my cousin that just kind of like, one morning, Chevy, he goes like, and realized there was something wrong on the mirror. And then so he pulled the mirror, this people out.
So what does that come from? Is it like a fear thing? You want to spread your cash,
course,
or is it
spread your
because
cash.
it could all go
and cash.
Yeah, right.
People do
Cash
a
is
wedding
king.
and they will come and pay. Like I remember seeing table like this, like with all the money, counting money. My uncle and my auntie. I never seen anybody counting money like that. The speed, like, it's like I remember being small and just like watching things. Like, wow, like that. It was incredible. Wow. But it was such a different words, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Just a different words.
1986, you for some reason decided to come to London to work at the Savoy. Adam Byatt, one of our old guests, has been there, has taken us through the sort of old-fashioned nature of it, even when he went sort of a couple of years after you. You were paid £76 a week under Anton Edelman. I mean, what was that like? Was it brutal?
I wanted so much to work there.
Really?
I wanted so much. It was, for me, it was possibly one of the day of my life was just when I put on the jacket with the Savoy.
Yeah.
That was, I remember looking at the mirror and think, I think about it, it just started, isn't it? But I felt I arrived. I really felt I touched the sky.
Had you had any sort of training? Because obviously you grew up in this restaurant
grew up
environment.
I went to hotelery school. Yes.
Okay, right.
No. And then I as soon as I finished hotelery school, I stopped working with my family and I started to work in this quite a well-known restaurant there, which had really nice chefs. Chef then traveled around. Chef then went around. So, chef had that international experience.
Okay,
there.
nice.
And he was very so, and that's how it comes. This idea of the Savoy sort of come there, But and then England was just the music, this, that. It was just I want to go to London so badly.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, but
even though the food reputation was not great. I know the Savoy had its.
That's what I wanted because they say haute cuisine and that's what you want to do. And I did try sort of kind of like to go to France, but it didn't kind of work out.
Yeah,
I felt a little bit like it didn't work out. While in England I wrote to the Savoy, they wrote back, so I come up for the interview thinking that they were going to give me the job. Bang. Well, they say, okay, give us the address and then we'll write you. Oh my God. I'm not going to go back now. I'm not going back to the village. It would be like I lost it.
Yeah.
So I hang on.
Oh, really? You just stayed?
I had £470 and slowly I was living up in Baker Street.
Yeah.
And I was sharing this room with these other desperate guys. And then worked at Pied à Terre. Can you imagine? It wasn't called Pied à Terre at that point. And it was already a very good French restaurant. Yeah. And he helped me to get a job at this restaurant. It was in Covent Garden called Bates.
Right.
Yeah. And I did. As I was waiting, I worked with that, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed it. And but at the Savoy it was just I felt in London I never felt like an immigrant. This was the great thing about London, and I always felt. And you're coming from a small village where you are the son of your father and your grandfather.
Yeah.
You cannot hide, and everyone around the 25 kilometers surrounded the lake, and everybody knows who you are, where you're from, and this and this and that. So to come to London and to just be nobody and just walk out on your day off and just go down to Soho, hang around and meeting people was just a great
such a freedom,
thing. Great.
I remember reading that you said to your dad that you didn't even know your neighbour after a year.
That's right.
And he was absolutely appalled.
Yes.
Really?
I thought it was the greatest thing.
Yeah, he was brilliant.
Who lives next door. But everybody lives in the pocket of everybody else there. Just
was it good to get a sort of a Escoffier classical education at Savoy? Did that help your cooking or not really?
I always had a bit of a Escoffier sort of a love for, which started from very young because one of the chefs who worked for my uncle, this guy called Silvano, it was the first chef that arrived to work for us during the season, and he had knives, his own knives, and books.
Wow,
the other chef, I never seen anybody with a recipe or anything, or nothing written. And so sad. And one of them was the repertoire in Italian, which had all the picture of the buffet and the banqueting and all that, and was my favorite thing. So. And I still got that book because he gave a present to me.
Really?
Yeah, a few years after when I went to work at the Savoy one time, I go back and he died, so he give a present to me.
Was it good nights out in the Savoy, after the Savoy, in the evening in London? Young man, good-looking Italian.
What you could afford, but you found ways. Saul was so different. It was much more Italian, and it was very different. We found the way through this club or that club, and friends of friends. We used to hang around a lot on the French house.
Yeah,
and Gaston was there at that point. And so, and he knew that you could come in and have just one drink, but he never was rude or he was such a great host, he made you feel comfortable. I loved it. And he was so rude to some people, it's just incredible. I love it.
You did go to Paris, to Le Tour d'Argent, the oldest restaurant in France. At that point, 3 Michelin stars. I mean, was that a big step up? And secondly, I've read it was full of harassment and sort of psychological abuse.
I went to Paris, so I bothered the chef so much. Says, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to Paris, I want to go to Paris. And Anton Edelman sort of helped me out. And he knew Mr. Erlich, which was at that point the director of the Laurent. The Laurent is on the garden of the Champs-Élysées. And they call it the canteen of the millionaires. It was a fantastic restaurant with a fantastic cellar, brilliant place. They age their own cheese. It was incredible. I really love it. And so I went there. I did 1 year and a half, and then after 1 year and a half, you get your bon servi. So you just and I thought I'll maybe go back. I want to go back to London. And then when I give my resignation in, suddenly somebody for the Tour d'Argent called me and he says, "Oh, we're looking for." What was he? A chef de party. And I thought, the Tour d'Argent. And so I went. And that was terrible. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it at all.
Why was it so bad?
Well,
Horrible people?
But, it was just the whole French thing. There was a lot of abuse. There was a lot of hours. There was a lot of work.
Yeah.
It was and, for them, I was the worst. Because I knew, because in the 3 Michelin star in Paris, you have all the people from the countryside, then sort of grow their talents, and then what they want to do to send it to Paris. Yeah. And they usually know quite a lot about their cuisine of where they're coming from, but they don't know so much about haute cuisine. Yeah. I was really well for woods because, I worked around with the repertoire in my pocket. Yeah. So it was just, so for them, their worst things was like, you say, you're a spaghetti, you learn how to cook from the roast beef. That was just,
the ultimate insult.
And I don't remember. Monsieur Martinez never called me by my name in 1 year and a half. Not
really?
Once.
What did he call you?
Rital, when he was happy. Rital de merde when he was very happy.
So what does that mean?
Rital is Italian. Is just
okay, right? Yeah,
like a slur.
Little Italians. Yeah. And
so how long were you there?
1 year and a half, because I stick at it.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna get
you
can do whatever you want to me, but I show you I can do this. I can do this.
Away from the abuse, though, did you enjoy the sort of step up into like a 3 Michelin star cuisine?
No, I enjoy much more the work at the Laurent. It was much more organized. It was much more respectful. It was much more, and here it was trashy, And then I was in the starter. And so the pastry down at the Tour d'Argent, I don't know how, because now they're redone all up, but the pastry was on the 4th floor. We were on the 5th floor. So what happened is then the garde-manger cooked the soufflé for dessert. So the dessert come from downstairs, and there was a trolley and everything. Yeah, there was a trolley as well. And but the soufflé, we cook it. And so I was supposed to cook it, and this was a nightmare, because they mess up with the mixture, and then it was always your fault.
Yeah.
And so one night was this tragedy about it, and he said, okay, just say, okay, you're on the duck now. So that was hell. The duck is, their dish is the duck à la presse.
Okay, yeah.
So you end up cooking 40, 35, 40, 50 duck in the evening. You had 3 ovens, and they were kind of fatty duck. So, it was hell.
So that was a punishment almost, to go on the duck.
The duck was the punishment.
Yeah, really?
And that's the right
and then, and then the duck will just, and then he'll just throw things at you. And then, there was like this, I remember there was this like pieces of iron, like about the long, you had 2 of them. And so the order will come in and they will go on the pass underneath these things, you know. So when you mess up, what you'll do, you just grab these things and fucking hit you with that. But the problem was, then the check
Everywhere. So
flow everywhere.
You don't know where you are.
So then, you pick up the check and then that was it. That was just a nightmare. A nightmare. And one time he threw a duck out the window,
Really?
in the garden, yeah.
You did or he did?
No, he did.
He did.
He got me to go down and get it. And as I was walking down, he was shouting through the window the order. And he was like, get the duck, just come back. It's ridiculous.
We're talking about food. Ben, what have you whipped up for the wonderful Giorgio Locatelli? Come
So
on.
I'm going to do a duck alla presso. Yeah, no.
Just don't chuck it out the window.
I've done something very simple. I've done a caponata with some burrata, a little bit of bread.
Caponata.
Burrata, thank God.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
love a burrata, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, also the fact it's available. We're not in the 80s anymore.
We're not.
Yeah,
And, embarrassingly, this is from Marks and Spencer's. My burrata.
Oh, that's fine.
So that shows how far we've come, right? And I think it's half decent.
Well, I
Anyway.
should say, when you get that ready, Blink are the wonderful sponsors of this podcast. They're tearing up the rule book. No long-term contracts, no hidden fees, and no per device charges. For just £49 a month for unlimited devices and 24-hour UK-based support that's always there in person when you need it. It's built for hospitality, by hospitality. Blink is the fastest, easiest POS system on the market. So intuitive, anyone can use it. And while others take weeks to get you up and running, with Blink, you're live in just 2 hours. Giorgio, is it too late to get you signed up for Blink at the gallery?
I don't know. That's completely out of my hand.
I
You have
think-
to talk to Plaxi about
I
things
think
like
John
that.
Spiteri, is he involved?
Yeah, John
Okay,
Spiteri
I'm
as
going to
well.
send John a message because we can give you a free month with the code GOTOBLINK.
I think for Giorgio, they'll do 6 months.
They'll do 6 months.
Yeah.
Okay, and also John Boy, friend of the show. You then head back from Paris and obviously, your sort of nightmare and weird experiences. Move back to London.
It was like a. I really thought that I didn't want to be a chef for a while. I went back home and my granddad was dead by then. The other granddad as well was dead. My grandmother left. And I remember just, one afternoon just sitting down talking to her and say, I don't know if I want to be a chef because I really don't want to be like that. I thought it was just quite unfair, the whole thing. And you treated like so badly and paid very little. And then suddenly the guy's outside is drinking a bottle of champagne for like 25,000 francs. This is not what I want.
The disparity.
It
as
didn't
well.
reflect, like we ran the restaurant like a family, and it was a very equal sort of systems. And so it was just I thought like, and I remember she said something really incredible, on her, that farmers intuitivity and simplicity as well. And she said something like, you can be the chef that you want to be. You don't need to be the chef like everybody else. And that really kind of struck it for me, and that was it. And so after
Sorry, that was meant to be an abundant pour.
Yeah, that was meant to be.
It turned out to a tiny little dribble.
and she just kind of like said that, and for me it was just that was it, that was the thing. And then I got this phone call from London and say, oh, we're doing this restaurant, and I remember just say, I didn't ask him how much I was gonna get paid. He said then we were gonna get, there was a space upstairs to leave. And I say, okay, I'm coming as long as I can do the menu. And that was it. So I come up and after he says, you're the only chef that I talked to, then sort of didn't ask me how much I was going to pay you or things like that.
Was Olivio A to Z as well or not?
No, Olivio was...
that was Zafferano.
Yeah, that was Zafferano.
So what was Olivio like?
Yes.
And because apparently you were inspired by sort of peasant Italian food to a certain degree. When you went to start the restaurant, like what were you thinking food-wise?
I was thinking cheapest ingredients than I could get. And so obviously the Italian will just cook calf's liver, I will cook pig's liver, sardine instead than sea bass. And so every ingredient that I could just really work. And Olivio was incredible because it was two of us in the kitchen. Suddenly one of the washing up was such a nice guy that we got him in to become one of the chef as well, and we got another washing up. So maximum was 3 people, but we were really, really busy. We worked very well. Mauro had a great vision as well. He was Sardinian, and he also understood that kind of, and he was a great fan of the River Café, and now I can't remember the name of the restaurant at that time, but we used to go out to eat quite a lot and go to eat always in kind of restaurant, either French or Italian, but then didn't do that haute cuisine. And so that was quite important for me. And, and slowly, the ingredients start to really flow in and the people start to come and there was really, I felt a great, we were growing so much. We changed the menu every week.
Really?
So I work Monday to Saturday, and then Sunday I'll be in the kitchen working for the menu. Then we change on Monday.
Wow.
So and that was it, and that's when I met Plaxi, and then she said, this is, what is your life,
That's crazy.
And we used to just live I used to live upstairs, so I'll come down at 7, and then I would just go up at 3, have a sleep, and then for 1 hour or 2, and then I'll be back in the kitchen and back at 10, 11:30. That was just.
And at that point, the produce was getting better in the country.
The produce really start to come up, and also start also the cheap flying. So lot of people start to understand. Because you see, food is all about you eat something one time, then you remember it.
Yeah, you want it again.
And so and more people start to go and eat. Apart, we were sort of like there. Olivio was just. Belgravia, Victoria Belgravia, so Pimlico there. So they were quite affluent sort of people.
Yeah.
But we were a very simple restaurant. We would take the food upstairs ourselves. So it was just, I learned a lot as well. I learned a lot because until then, there was this great detachment between me and the service. Even at the Savoy. In Paris, it was like stabbing each other, you know what I mean? There was a fight, a constant fight. At Olivio, it was seamless. That was like what I was used to when I was little.
Yeah.
That's it. That we were together, all of us, and the wine and these, and so there was a growing sort of. Think about it. There was a French restaurant before, and so when Mauro took it on, it became an Italian restaurant. It was, and he really tried to really change the whole idea. I liked it. I loved the experience there. But then. I wanted to grow, and I felt that I deserved to be able to buy more expensive produce and really do more of this. But the idea was, we do peasant cuisine because that's what we can afford.
Yeah. well, then you go to Zafferano, though. Opens in '95.
Yeah.
You win back-to-back best Italian restaurant in the country. Then you get a Michelin star. How did that food differ? I'm guessing you got more money behind you. You got A to Z behind you. Even though they turned out to be a bit dodgy.
That turned out to be a big not the people who started it.
No, the person who took over.
Just the people who took over after that turned out to be very dodgy. But the idea is that we were allowed. We were the chef patron, so we all. Even Gordon was in Aubergine, and he was in the same situation than me. 25% owner. You didn't invest anything. You get your thing going, and the restaurant is like we were taking in 1 week what we were paid a year of rent.
Wow.
After like a couple of months, you know what I mean? It was just so.
So beyond that, 25% is a good deal. If that's the number,
if you could get it.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
If you get it, that's a good deal. But and then it was very good for me because sort of like in between Olivio and Zafferano, I kind of like we had a little bit of space, and there was this really nice man from Bijan Bezadi from what is it, Little Venice sort of thing. And he say, I want to do a pizzeria. And I never worked in a pizzeria, actually, because for me it was like, actually it was an insult. I'm a chef, I'm not a fucking pizzaiolo, you know what I mean? But I was so interested on the fire and this and that. So I say, okay, if we build it, I come and help you to do this, but you have to let me build the oven. So we got these Italian people to come up, we built the oven. It was really, really a great experience. And so the people of A to Z have noticed that. And so the next step with Zafferano was to do Spiga and Spighetta. Spiga, which was in Bordeaux Street, which was a great, successful and very, very nice restaurant.
Yeah.
And kind of like there you start to learn more about managing and things like that. But I mean, we grow a lot. The A to Z, yes, I did 7 years with them. It was my university.
Yeah. But Zafferano means saffron in Italian. Apparently you used to intertwine saffron into the bill. I mean, surely being one of the most expensive commodities in the world, you were losing a lot of money on that.
No, because Bijan Bezadi was from Iran, and so I'll
so
get
really?
big things.
Your saffron was a bit cheaper than other people's.
Well, it was the Iranian one,
Yeah,
that
okay.
we will get, from that, But, and saffron is something that determines so much the northern Italian cuisine. In Milan, the Milanese risotto is risotto with saffron.
Yeah.
So, and that's why kind of, and also because it was these things about aubergine, and so it was A to Z. So aubergine, zafferano, and I should have called it my name, and then I would have gone. Maybe it would have been better. Call it Locatelli. I would have been respected more. But
So Claudio Pulls, the original owner, was brilliant guy.
Claudio was incredible.
Then you win.
He had
You win Outstanding Chef of the Year 2 years running, 2000, 2001.
right.
You got the Michelin star. Then Giordano Lotto, that bastard, comes in, and he starts screwing you over.
Have you got beef with him as well?
He screwed me over once before as well. Yeah.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not surprised
No.
of that.
So what was his game? What happened? What changed?
No, what happened is Giuliano Lotto was a silent partner that only invested money in A to Z. He never thought that Claudio and Franco will manage to do. Suddenly we have Memories of China, Aubergine, Zafferano, Oranger, Spiga, Spigetta. We were just going like every year. We opened 2
Something
restaurants.
else. Yeah,
and
yeah.
every restaurant we opened was just going better and better and better. And all the chefs that we produced, they were really doing new restaurant. Gordon made Marcus. It was just going like it was going really, really well. And so suddenly he just made an offer to the 2 of them and bought them over. So suddenly, between sitting down with 2 very professional people, which is Claudio and Franco, Giuliano financial, and us, and it was balanced, the discussion and what we did and the decision we're taking. Suddenly you're sitting down with the guys who own 75%, and he decide to do this restaurant, and take your sous chef and do another place. And you go like, hold on a minute, we're not ready yet to lose a sous chef here to do another place. But you
But the
couldn't
control's
oppose
gone.
it. Control is gone.
Yeah.
So, and he has it. And look, he fucked up majestically. He lost everything.
Yeah.
Did you ever have anything to do with Gordon and Marcus or not?
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot we did, because we were in the same company.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we sit down the same board and also kind of like exchange,
Yeah.
It's like, the coffee. I remember one time I'm in Zafferano and Jean-Claude, the old Jean-Claude goes, we have a problem with the coffee. Can you bring us? Have you got any spare coffee? I just said, I'll bring you some. I just arrived, so I had the Ducati at that point. I put the tin of the Kili Café. I remember putting the tin of the Kili in the Ducati like that, keep it up and go down to.
And you drove it across.
Yeah, drive across to Aubergine, like to take the thing. And I remember arriving there and just going down to the kitchen, and Gordon was on one of these like. So I look at the restaurant. There was I thought there were still clients in there. So I thought, I can't go to the restaurant.
Yeah.
Plus, I think I had my chef trousers still on. And so I go downstairs, and Gordon was doing one of his tirade with somebody. I thought, I just stood there back like, I gotta get killed now. Let's bring some coffee.
That's
That was
hilarious.
incredible.
But how did it feel, that period? I mean, like that. It's a huge period of growth for like
He
British
was a-
restaurants. It must have. You were at the center of it. It must have felt quite exciting.
That's what I just said. The year, the 90s, 95 to 2005 was just but everyone, it felt like everybody was growing. The food got better. The clients got more knowledgeable, and so you were embarking. Because at the start, sometimes I remember even in Olivio and in Zafferano, we end up throwing people out because you go like, no. We don't do pizza. No, we don't do.
Yeah,
what
right.
kind of Italian restaurant is? But I go down there, spaghetti house. You just go there.
So the level of knowledge wasn't enough to kind of for people to understand.
Suddenly, bam, 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 it come up from the clients and also from producer, importer, distributor. Everyone got into this, and London really became a hub, because before you come to London, you went to the big hotel. Otherwise, the rest was just local restaurant just for the people.
Did you ever fall out with any other chefs or not?
No, I never fall out with anyone.
Did you ever get any Italian people coming in jealous of your success? Because you were, starting the wave of amazing Italian food in this country now.
No, I never had a fallout with other chefs, and the Italian people we're always really grateful of the fact that we were representing Italian culture at such a level. So we got a lot of admiration. We got a lot of support from the wine producer. We got a lot of support from the importers and distributor, because they really saw that, the quality, I mean, that Zafferano was wine list only Italian. And, with all the region, never heard about that.
Yeah.
Every Italian restaurant had French wine in it. Some Italian, but some French.
Yeah.
And so we were really sort of like, and that happened only with the support from the producer in Italy. That they push and they really sort of make it possible for us.
Yeah.
Considering that, now the Italians are selling a lot of wine. We create a great market for them.
Yeah, quite a big market.
I mean, like Sicilian wine was.
Yeah. Shout out to Luca, Passione Vino.
No, vino.
Yeah.
But like a Notre Wine Cellar, there's a lot of company that really, they had a massive sort of French portfolio. And slowly, we start to demand, and then they start to sell to supermarkets. They start to really get it all going.
Yeah.
But it was it was a whole thing growing together. That was very interesting at that point.
Quite exciting, it must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was yes, it's true. I mean, there was always this spat between Marco and Marco and Gordon and this and that. So you had to sometimes. So we kind of like stayed out. I'm not taking any part on this now. I don't want to get caught in this one. So the door is open for everybody. There's a plate of pasta for everybody in Zafferano. Don't worry.
You must have seen a lot of odd things from your customers over the years. What's the weirdest thing you've seen looking out from the kitchen?
What I see, no, because the customer kind of, if you do it properly, the customer like to be educated. If you don't do it with that sort of like, looking down at it, the people really do appreciate that. They do appreciate like this idea now, the storytelling. I mean, this was something that we never heard about it. We were the first, few of the first that went out before service, sitting down with the waiter and tell them, okay, this is done like that because it comes out there. It's pane di grano arso because they were paid the rent with they burned the things. We tell this story to the waiters, and so that knowledge start to pass through. So the clients know. I mean, we had that great truffle kerfuffle. Do you remember? You never heard about this?
No.
What's the truffle kerfuffle?
The truffle kerfuffle was. Truffle kerfuffle was so practically when the truffle come in season. I think it was the first year that we were open, and so we opened in February, and so by November we start to bring in some white truffle, and again it was one of these things. My wife hated it, but we used to do it as well. Then to the lady or to the if you're the guys who book the table, you get the menu with the price. Everybody else on the table doesn't get a price. So the condition there are things that was seen as a terrible thing.
It was like the average.
You give him a menu to the man. You give it the menu with the price, and to the woman you didn't.
Yeah.
Which is it's like now it would be like they shoot you if you do something like that.
No,
but that was seen as a etiquette.
Yeah, Michelle Roux said they did the same. Right?
Absolutely. So that's what we did as well. And so she gets the menu, and she chooses the truffle. But she doesn't know how much it costs, because it's not. He doesn't even look at the menu and just say, "Oh yeah, of course, I have truffle too."
Yeah.
So they have the truffle. So when the bill comes, the guy goes, "I'm not paying for this," and so the manager is sort of like, says like, "Well, look, if you have a complaint, you have to pay the bill first, and then you can complain."
Yeah.
And so the lady sort of got up and took a coat and went out. So when he saw the lady go out, he just shut the fucking door of the restaurant and closed the bill. Said, "You're not leaving. You pay the bill first."
Yeah.
And so he was a lawyer, and he made these big stinks out of it. It was called it was on the Miro and all this.
Really? It went
the
like
truffle,
national press?
Yes.
Even though he refused to pay it, and he's a lawyer. I mean,
No, he paid then.
Oh,
Then he paid, and then he made these big
because
things.
he was locked in.
And it was her birthday. And I remember that's what we did. The year after, I went to the florist. The florist that used to do the flower for the restaurant. Says, I want a bunch of flower that doesn't go through the door. And we send it to him.
Really?
With the note say, I hope he hasn't managed to fuck up also this birthday. Fucking wanker.
That is brilliant.
The truffle kerfuffle. But that was that's when you realize bad publicity doesn't really exist.
I was going to say, that must have been good for
That
business.
was madness.
Yeah, really.
Our consumption of truffle went from, 1 kilo, whatever, to 5 kilo. That was the step. And suddenly we were the restaurant to go and have truffle.
Wow.
Suddenly, naturally. So he was like, thank you very, very much for this.
It's almost like you concocted it deliberately.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Unbelievable,
Wow.
I also read you once had a client who was so bored of his sort of compatriots at the table that he went out for a cigarette, paid the bill before they'd even ordered, and just walked off.
And then
I
he
quite
said,
like that.
and he says, I'm sorry, but these guys are all millionaires, so they're never going to ask for a fucking bill. So I'll pay for you. And he paid and he went.
And went.
Yeah.
What a legend.
Got the cab and left them there.
That's quite a good move.
And they were very well-known millionaires.
Oh, really?
We don't mention their names. But
No,
Well, we could do. If you want. I'd quite like that.
And did they notice he left?
after a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
We're obviously coming to the end. You're an absolute legend. But we just want to say, like, how much harder is it now? You've been in the game for sort of 40-odd years. How much harder is it to run a restaurant? Would you ever start one from afresh now if you're a young person in the industry? What advice would you give to people who are thinking about doing it? Would you say don't bother?
No, I think then if you have a passion and if you feel like that what you want to do is to spend your life with other people producing food and producing these waves of goodness, then you should do it. Obviously, to start a business now, especially in certain part of the country, London, central London, that is maybe be a bit careful.
Yeah.
But there are some part of London. I mean, there is this, which is lovely, this idea of these local restaurants. My son lives down in Peckham, and when I went down there's these really lovely
Great
little
one.
places.
Yeah.
And then they're there because the rent is perfect. Yes, it's a gentrified area, so the people around have got the money and they got the understanding. So this is what we're looking at, what you have to look. To do what we did, to open a restaurant in Mayfair, that's
Crazy.
that's a game that is not anymore chefs will do.
Yeah.
Is a financer now, is people then. And I feel that if you love this kind of, because you have to like it, it's not one, there's no two way about it, and you have to have a different rhythm in life, and sometimes for young people can be a bit harsh because everybody's out partying and they're working.
Yeah.
So some people stop doing it because of that. It's very antisocial. When you start to have a family, it's very difficult, and to justify. And but no, it's a fantastic business that we have. I mean, who like us take something that is being take care by somebody that grow an animal or fish a fish or grow something, take it into your hands in the morning, transform it into something that reflects not only your aim, your knowledge, your sensitivity, and everything else that comes with it. So it's become a little bit of an expression of yourself.
Yeah.
And then that day you sell it to somebody, then consume it, usually say thank you, and fucking pay for it. Like that day he pays.
Yeah.
You don't wait 6 months to get paid. You don't the invoice. They pay before he leaves. Where is it? Is the circle of life is closed every single day. That's the greatest thing about our job, and that's what makes you go back. That's why I feel them. I mean, one of the things January was when we closed Locanda. I was like, not having a restaurant to go was just so difficult.
Really,
Plaxi
you wanted to, like a footballer who's retired, you just wanted to get back in
was
there.
going come on, let's go to the market, let's buy something, let's invite somebody for dinner, let's get you to do something. Otherwise, you just kind of like
give you that buzz.
you miss that buzz, and I think you miss that interaction with the clients because at the end of the day, then depends how you're doing it, but there is this interaction with the people, and it's like. Like my dentist always says, you have the greatest job. Everybody has to come to me, but everybody hates me. Everybody loves you.
Yeah.
So that's the people really like you for what you do for them. You give them the good time. You're part of a celebration. You're
Yeah.
part of their wedding anniversary. You're part of their birthday. You're part of the last time then they had with that person. So this becomes a very, exchanging things.
Yeah.
Mm.
How nice has it been for you though? Because obviously you made your name in this country mostly, even though as an Italian. To now go back and do MasterChef in Italy, you become a huge, huge star there. Because you made your name here, right? And then you're going back, almost an export.
And and the funny thing is that everybody thinks I'm an Italian, but I'm a gentleman because I've been educated in England and then I talk quite properly and this and that. And so, and my wife always says, but the only reason I married is because he wasn't a gentleman. Flaxy always said that. But no, it was a great, I don't know, I didn't look for it. I did some work for the BBC, which was really, really interesting with Andrew Graham Dixon, where we did Italian Pack and Sicilian Pack. It was, for me, it was incredible because we were traveling all over Italy, 8 of us with a car and the van, stop, film, eat, drink. I learned a lot. Also, obviously, every time we were working on the script and things, I always choose things or places that I never been, or that I wanted to know, that I wanted to understand. So, San Vito Lo Capo to go and have the couscous. I wanted to be there. So we always match it to things that interested me. But then, when that finished, and I refused a lot of other TV because I thought, I'm happy to be in the restaurant. I don't need all these things. And it's not very interesting to just go into a studio to do some cooking on Saturday morning. Yeah. No, it's not. I'd rather go to my restaurant. The coffee is much better, and I get treated much better. Do you know what I mean? So I thought that's done, and then these things from MasterChef arrive, and I did it almost like a joke. And Plaxi said, "Go do it. Try it off one. See if you like it." When I went there, I really found it really nice to work with the team, and I really liked the way we did it. And so, and the year after, they offered me the job. So it was like, okay, I'll do it. The money were very good.
Oh yeah,
because Italian TV had that. Plus,
it's big.
It's like 60 million people watch that
Wow.
program in Italy. It's
Really?
big in Italy. It's a big thing.
Yeah.
It's not like here.
No.
It's
Is that
not.
the best paid gig you've ever had?
No.
What was?
The best gig that I ever had.
Yeah.
One time I got flown to Qatar to cook 2 tagliolini with truffle and back.
How much they pay?
25 grand.
Let's just go and cook the pasta and come home.
Yeah.
For 2 people.
Wow.
40 people in the desert.
Wow. Was it good?
Oh, that's very good.
The pasta.
Yeah.
Delicious.
Giorgio, you've been absolutely incredible. We're going to finish off quick fire with your go-to locations.
Yeah.
So you tell us, where is your go-to weeknight restaurant? You've had a couple of months off. You live in Camden, right?
I live in Kentish Town.
Kentish Town, okay.
Very nice.
So my go-to restaurant is the Perky, which is just up the road, and they always fit us in, and so I'm not. And I love always to eat Chinese or Thai or something like that. For me, is I tend not to go to Italian restaurants or thing, but unless you have to. But I love to go somewhere that and I love the Perky because it's like a pub stroke restaurant. Everything comes from the fire. I can't remember his name, but he's so talented. I think this chef.
Yeah.
The guys. I can't remember his name. That's terrible.
It's a great place.
Yeah, great place.
What about for a big, like a slap-up meal, a celebration? Where would you be going?
Celebration is always a bit of a problem because with margarita allergy, you have to be really careful. Then you have somebody then take care of it.
Yeah.
So center town, there is few restaurants. I mean, Trinity is one.
Yeah.
Is one of the places and I love and I don't know, Chebrus. And then there is Scott's. Scott's is one of the places that they're really taking care. So because if she's not there, that's okay. But if she's there, you have to be really careful and you have to make sure that somebody really otherwise the party can turn into a nightmare.
Yeah.
So and that's what you don't want.
What about hidden gems? Do you have any hidden gems? Maybe not just in London, anywhere.
But the Bull and Last up the road as well from where we are, that's an hidden gem, and it's always very nice to have. I kind of like to go to a restaurant where I don't have to deal with another time with the waiter and the menu and the thing. You walk in and you just go, I'll have that. I'll have that. And this is more about relaxing, isn't it? Was that we went to a Japanese restaurant in in Islington, which I thought it was unbelievable, but I can't remember the name.
We'll get it from you off
We'll
camera.
work it
And
out.
we'll add it in.
We'll work it out.
So you're gonna go on a long weekend to go and eat somewhere amazing.
Yeah.
Where in the world would you be going? What would you be eating?
I will go to Palermo.
Yeah.
I'll go to Palermo and I will eat in the bucceria, or I will eat in the streets almost.
Yeah.
That's what I like.
What are the things that when you go
I
to
love
Palermo?
to go to Rome as well. Rome is really fantastic.
Well, we can do a multi-stop.
Yeah.
In Palermo, though, what are the things in your head you're like, I need to go and have X and Y?
But you go to the bucceria and you pick up anything from the raw sardine to whatever that comes, and the caponata, and they do you on the streets and things like that. And then in the evening you go to the Quattro Quarti, this restaurant that is on the top of that. That is a fantastic restaurant as well. And I don't know. I also went. There is one place that I haven't taken Plaxi yet, and it's in Lago d'Orta.
Okay.
And it's called Villa Crespi, and it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant. And usually it's not what I do, but I end up going there and I thought I had the most amazing meal. And so I really want to take her there.
Beautiful.
And this Lago d'Orta is one of those little lake, very tiny, beautiful little lake, and this is a very beautiful castle.
Yeah.
Most of the restaurants in there. Yeah, he's a fantastic chef. This guy, he's Napolitans.
Yeah.
But then, so when he was 20, he came to Piedmont, and so you have this Piemontese. He made a fusion between Piemontese and Napolitan cuisine.
Yeah,
wow, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
You wouldn't have been able to get away with that back in the day.
No.
So there's a freedom now that you can do that. Yeah.
No, I was well. The Italian are slowly
Yeah.
opening a little bit. They still go crazy about the cream on carbonara. They go mad
There's
about things like that.
points.
But they are opening up, and in the city you notice as well. I mean, in Milan, when I'm filming in Milan, I live near Stazione Centrale, and there is 2 or 3 Chinese restaurants, and they are really to the standard of London now.
Wow, really?
Those known before.
Yeah. And they're popular, as in people.
Very popular.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
popular.
That's amazing.
Very popular.
Cool.
Well, Giorgio, you've been absolutely incredible. We're going to finish off the way we always do with your go-to 3-course meal. What are you having? The last 3 courses, the greatest 3 courses you've ever had.
In my life.
Yes.
But the first would be a carpaccio. The second would be a risotto with white truffle.
Made by? Who's going to make it for you?
One of my boys.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
Oh, and then the last one would be like a roast rabbit with polenta.
Oh.
And then a pudding? Or are you having rabbit for pudding?
Yeah. A pudding, I don't know. Pudding.
Was your tiramisu quite famous back in the day?
Yes, because I did these things. No, and then I coming from Paris, I remember seeing the chef doing all this work with the langue de chat.
Yeah.
And so I did I took a langue de chat and turned it upside down in a cappuccino, and then I made the thing there and served it. And that was like,
Crazy.
And then Stefano says, but this, Stefano Cavallini was like, but this, you saw it from me. I said, not really like that.
No.
That's my taking
That
of
would have
it,
been all over TikTok nowadays.
Yeah.
That would have been the latest viral trend. So maybe have that for pudding, or not?
I mean, if somebody would do something like we did with that tiramisu now, there would be like TikTok, and it would be crazy thing about it.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about that. Then this social media is really amplifies so much something very fast. But before you open a restaurant, you have to wait 6 months before the first journalist come. Then if you were lucky enough, then you like him, maybe someone else comes, and you wait until next year. The growth was so much slower. Now it's just somebody overnight.
Well, it will be for the gallery, but you're already booked up, aren't you? You've already got thousands of bookings, which is quite good.
The gallery's got quite a lot of booking, but I am not too keen on taking too many booking. I wanted to have
people walk
60%. I want to keep it for the walk-in.
Oh, really? 60% for walk-in?
Yeah.
Wow.
At
We'll
the moment,
go for a
we'll
walk-in, won't we?
try.
Yeah.
Well, you've been absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
You're a beautiful man. You're a successful man. You're just great. We wish you the best of luck with everything. Thank you so much for coming in. Hopefully some other restaurants to come in the future as well, maybe.
I don't think so.
We don't think so. No, we don't think so.
No, it's always worth a shot.
Yeah, it's always worth a shot. Those are your go-tos, Lucy. Giorgio, thank you so much for giving us your time. We're going to ask you, what song do you want us to play you out with? Any song in the world.
London Calling.
London Calling.
Yes,
Beautiful.
that's the one.
Giorgio, thank you so much.
Thank you.